Hey everyone, this is the CI/CD UX weekly meeting, the APAC edition, and we have everyone here, and we'll get started with some of the standing items. We don't have that many, but there's one standing item to review the OKR's progress. So if you're working on some OKR issues like the S1, S2 bugs and things like that, just make sure that things are on track. And if you do complete things, don't forget to check them off in the KR issues. And yeah, now we can move on to the package items. Katie, you're up.
Cool. So this week I've been working on some designs for the future vision of the dependency proxy UI based off of Last Milestone's problem validation research. The outcome of the research had some pretty clear recommendations. So for a bit of context, the dependency proxy is currently got a very light UI. And based off of what we learned about customers' workflows, I've had some concepts here for a future vision. And thank you, Veethika, for your feedback, and also Hyana and Gina. I really appreciate it. The designs are quite rough at the moment, but if anyone has time, have a look and give some feedback. And the second thing that I was working on this week was looking into a competitor. The reason for looking into the competitor was in some research sessions, I heard customers using different terminology than the terminology that we're using, maybe having slightly different mental models about the way things should work. So I took the time to really dig into a competitor, and I made a literally 30-minute long video about my experience, which is fine, but not that consumable. So my question to the group is, does anyone have any tips about how to document the things you found about the competitor in a meaningful way? All good if not. I will try to...
I'm just looking. Sorry, I was just gonna ask if you used the competitor evaluation research issue for this.
No, I don't know what that is.
Oh, okay. So I'm gonna share with you. So we have kind of very basic guidelines for competitor evaluation. So I don't know if it actually has guidelines for how to document things. Oh my God, how do I add this? Okay.
Yeah, I actually was looking for this. I was looking
here
on the same page where it has UX scorecards, because they have things like formative and whatever evaluations. And I was thinking it might be there, but I was probably just looking in the wrong place.
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird place. I only found it by searching for competitor evaluation. So it's on the UX heuristics page, and there's an issue template there. But there's also Erika's recommendation there. Oh no, not recommendation. Sorry. I think it makes sense to put it in Dovetail, since that's the source of truth for everything. And since I think we don't have a defined format for that, it's probably also a good opportunity to see if we can put some basic guidelines in place for that.
Yeah, I can be the guinea pig. Cool, thank you for that. I'll have a closer look at that template that you linked as well. Thank you, Nadia. That's it from me. Moving over to Nadia.
Erika, do you want to voice your comment before we move on?
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I just thought that like the timestamps for the video segments were fantastic, Katie. I was like, oh great. So I bookmarked it and we'll be digging in later, but I thought that was really nice.
Oh, good. I'm glad that was helpful. And yeah, feel free to fast forward a lot through it, because it's just a lot of me talking. Cool.
All right, so I'll go next. I started working on the visionary design exploration for CI catalog. You can have a look at the issue. So the purpose of this issue is to create visionary mockups to inform the proof of concept work that our engineers are currently doing. So the way we want to approach this whole project is that first we'll be working on a POC that will be used only internally. We want to first create a CI catalog that could be used perhaps by the documentation team. Then we might work together with our pipeline optimization team, or I think they're called optimize team or something like that, or productivity. Anyway, it's the engineers that are responsible for optimizing our pipelines and or optimizing the overall GitLab workflow. So we will be working with them next. So these visionary mockups are just to inform this work that we'll be doing, not the actual product that we will ship to our customers. So the idea here is that we're kind of dreaming big, but at the same time, it has to be very realistic, something that can actually inform the POC work and drive that. Once we have that, there will be another issue to refine those mockups for the actual MVC that we will start working towards. And that solution will go into solution validation. So now I'm thinking that these visionary mockups, there's no point in doing solution validation for that because the scope might change. It's just to drive the implementation discussions with the team. And then solution validation will do for the more refined proposal. So yeah, I'm very excited about this because I get to kind of just do whatever, take a bunch of screenshots of the competitors, and we've done some research, so we have lots of insights that we're working with, lots of discussions with our customers. And yeah, started with some sketches and wireframes, and at some point next week, I will start working on the actual mockups. And another interesting thing about this project is that I'm not necessarily using the GitLab components for this, but I think it will be more of a visual language that we use on the docs side, and even just our branding or marketing side. So yeah, it's very refreshing, something that doesn't usually happen. So yeah, if you have any feedback at this point, which at this point there's not much to look at, those sketches are probably impossible to read for anyone but myself. I just attached them for me to kind of reference. But yeah, once I have some actual UI mockups, I'll definitely share with you so you can provide your feedback.
So I had just the comment that the MVC requirements section was like brilliant. I was like, oh yes, this is what we're talking about. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I'm trying to be very, very specific because I've been burnt in the past. So I'm kind of using this project to practice the good process.
Yeah, I agree with Erika. That makes it very clear.
I just had a lot of things. Sorry.
No, you go on.
Yeah, as long as I'm connected, I should go on. Yeah, I just wanted to mention that I missed what you presented, but I'll take a look at it and I'll drop any feedback if there is.
Thanks, Veethika.
I just wanted to comment on the bit you said at the end about not testing like the visionary thing because the scope could change. And I just wanted to say that I kind of made this mistake recently and that I tested designs that were maybe like too far in the future. And I did learn a lot from it in terms of like, I got a lot of feedback about a lot of things, but in terms of like actionably, like we feel confident in the MVC, it probably wasn't the direction to go. So if that helps, like, yeah, like validate the approach you're going to take.
Thanks. Good to know. Yeah, and another thing that I wanted to share is some of the pajamas work that I'm doing. So in 14.8, I did a little audit of the drawer component usage, where I looked into all of the different ways that the drawer component is used in the product. And in that process, there were lots of questions that came up about the how the drawer component should be implemented and used, starting from how it should scroll, and then what customizations can be made to the component, because it's used in very different ways throughout the product. So clearly, it can't really support all of the use cases, or at the very least, some guidelines are missing. So different stage groups are kind of doing their own thing, including pipeline authoring. We completely butchered the drawer component, which we're now fixing. So there's two issues that I will be working on. The first one is to clarify the drawer usage guidelines. And in that issue, there's like a wide variety of questions about the component that I want to answer. So have a look at that. And if you have any questions about the drawer component, drop your questions there, so I can address them in this update. And the other issue focuses specifically on the guidelines for using drawers for showing the in-product help information. So this is something that we will collaborate on with the technical writing team. They've been kind of thinking about it for a while, looking for ways to provide contextual help information in the product. And at this point, I think the only example that we have is the pipeline editor drawer. And I'm not saying we're using it correctly, definitely not. So that's our attempt to provide those guidelines. And it's gonna go beyond just the drawer component itself, but also the content, because when it comes to providing help information, we also want it to be consistent in terms of how we provide the text. Like, for example, maybe everything needs to have a subheader, or we have some guidelines there, of course, like tone of voice and things like that. They're quite generic, but there are also some nuances that are specific to in-product help information that we have to clarify there. So if you have any ideas or any experience with showing help information in the product from your past projects or whatnot, feel free to drop them in that issue. That's all on my end.
Okay, I was thinking about like if I know something, but nothing on top of my mind right now. And yeah, if something comes up, I'll definitely drop it here. And in the meanwhile, Katie, I also found the template that we have for competitor evaluation and added it to the section above.
Thank you.
Yeah, then coming to my agenda items. The first one is, so there was Daniel and I were working on some changes to pajamas with respect to the reflow and responsive design behavior, because we don't have any of that like outlined in our design system today. So it took a lot of MRs, a lot of issues, a lot of discussions, a lot of to and fro, but finally it looks like it's going to get merged very soon. So this is the MR, and I'll share it in the Slack channel once it's merged. And a huge thanks to Jeremy here, because he really kind of saw this through with me, and I gave a ton of feedback, and the structure is totally changed, but it makes so much of a lot of sense right now. And other pajama issue that I was working on is the conceptual model for pipelines. So Nadia just finished working on the conceptual model for jobs, and I wanted to take this up next. And it was not a priority yet, but we recently kind of ran into an unfortunate situation with one of our feature implementations, that led us to realize that internally we don't have, sorry, I haven't added the link here. There you go. The link is still not there. Yep. And that's when I realized that this is not something that's very optional. And I have to kind of define this first, because there needs to be a parity in what we think of this pipeline object, like at the conceptual level. And this is the best way to get that clarified, like across the team. So there's some progress that I have made, but there's still a ton of work that needs to be done. And I'll be doing it at a slower pace because we have a lot of QRs right now. So this is going to go for some time, and Nadia, I'll definitely take your help in progressing with this. So there's that. The last item is a collaborative effort between source code and pipeline execution. So there's a work that Mike Nichols had started with the merge request settings page. I mean, if you go there today, and if you try to make a sense of all the sections there, it's a little difficult to kind of rationalize like what is the logical relationship between the items that are grouped, and I mean, how are they arranged together and laid out? The concerns that the source code team is working with are these three that I've just highlighted in the agenda, which is to introduce git merge, and they want to reorganize the settings to decouple fast forward, merge, and merge commit. And then they want to introduce optional merge commit settings. But from pipeline execution side, the concerns that I wanted to express here is how merge train is going to affect these options. For example, you cannot have a fast forward option with merge train today. And also, like, there's also some sort of constraint with using the merge commit option. So how are we establishing that relationship in the UI? Because we have to make sure that they stay in close proximity on the UI. And it's not like somewhere far apart that it's very difficult to understand, like, how is this item impacting that item and so on. And another thing that I really feel that we should change is how we talk about like enabling merge train. So today it's presented as a cascading setting. You have to first enable the merge result pipeline, then you can enable the merge train. So both have their own valid use cases. Like there could be a situation when a user might want to use merge result pipeline in the absence of merge train. That's totally understandable. But just when I, as a user, I'm going to the settings just to enable merge trains, and this is how I find the settings to be laid out, it does kind of trigger some sort of, it affects my confidence as a user, because I have to like look at so much more to understand if I'm doing the right thing there. So I think we should tackle that as well while we are on it. We might not be taking care of everything that I just mentioned about in the same issue, but there would definitely be follow-ups. That was it. Any comments, Nadia?
Yeah, I was wondering if you could provide, like, we still have some time, so maybe you could provide a brief overview of what are merge trains and how they're used. Like, how do you set them up, and how do you use them, and what are the personas involved? Because I have a very kind of basic understanding, but I don't really know the workflows in detail. So it would provide more context for the problems that you're dealing with.
Okay, sure. So I still go to my own blog when I have to read about it and like polish my knowledge, but I'll give a brief overview here. So in GitLab, when you have a pipeline configured for merge request, so what happens is when you push a commit to your merge request, the pipeline gets triggered and it runs. But this pipeline that runs, you would have seen the label detached, right? Like for most pipelines, that label comes. That means that the pipeline is not running for a commit against the target branch. It is detached from that. And we have a different kind of pipeline today, which is merge results pipeline. What this does is it kind of simulates a situation where it gives you the result of what the pipeline result would be if you're actually running against the target branch. So it's still not happening in reality. It creates a fake, a made up commit from the target branch to run that pipeline. And what merge train does is it leverages that pipeline, merge result pipeline, and creates a whole train. So what it does is, so let's say if I have 5 merge requests which are queued and which are to be merged, and I don't want like my target is progressing at a very high speed. My main branch is like just progressing because I work with a big team, and I don't want the branch to be breaking because of the kind of change that I'm making. At the same time, I don't want to wait on everybody to merge their changes and then see when there's a slot and I'll slip in and I'll do my work. So what I'll do is I'll just queue and merge train. It will pick, like, it kind of clubs all the changes and then creates a fake commit, runs a pipeline, and then matches the changes that you are creating with your commit with that made up commit. And that's why the result that you get from that pipeline is very close to what the real results would be. So it does it for each of the commit, for each of the merge requests. Now, you would have seen that when something is dropped from a train, it is very difficult to get it back. Why is that? So when something is dropped from a train, that means that made up commit that your merge train was working with, it has, when an item gets dropped, it kind of imagines a different chunk of changes, and it creates a fake commit out of that. Now, it's not very easy to go and make changes to it. It's not very easy to add something again to merge train and expect it to like just catch up, because that would involve the whole commit to be reconstructed. And that's a lot of work. And that's the reason we don't have those retries and in merge train pipelines yet. So that's some work that we still need to do there to make it more efficient. So it, like, we can take actions such as put added back to merge train or retry this merge train pipeline. But we are a little far away from that. We also don't support fast forward merge. Now that was me blabbering. If you have any like more specific question.
How does something drop? Sorry, Erika, I see you were first. You go first, and I will add mine.
No, you
later.
go. No, you go.
Okay. How does something drop from a merge train? Like, how does a commit drop from a merge train? Does it just happen, or like it's something that you would do on purpose?
You can do it on purpose, but that's also something that could just happen. I mean, something that's not in your control. For example, something can go wrong with the normal pipeline. It does, and the commit drops. Yeah, and you can also cancel and drop it.
It drops if the pipeline fails, or?
I want to say yes, but I don't think so. I think there are other reasons as well.
Okay. Okay. Cool. I have more questions, but that, like, I don't really need to dig into that deeply at this time. Thank you so much. It really helped. I understand it much better.
No problem.
Yes, and my question and I have an update in the UX research thread, but basically I've just been running users through the survey development interviews, which is basically they take that ops product direction survey and talk out loud and they get confused. Anyway, one of the things they were confused about is what was a merge train. So I just was trying to come up with a one sentence definition, but I was wondering, is that only a GitLab functionality? Like, are there competitors that have similar? There are.
So there is one competitor, and I mean, all they do is just merge trains by a different name, of course, but that's their only product. And as in, I think you can use it on GitHub to kind of simulate a similar thing. It's called Git. Oh, I'm forgetting. I'll find it and I'll send it to you, because I remember this news of their funding and all.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Thank you. Yes, you guys are a treasure trove of expertise. And just so you know too, I am going through and trying to figure out the most consumable way to share with you the results of those survey development interviews. I have like an updated survey, and I have like a report that I linked there, which is just about the questions they had about the survey and the changes I made to refine it. But then also they went through and like talked about their workflow and challenges. So I think I'm going to also do a report on that substantive stuff. And I can get just some little things about what was hard or why. And this is like, so, and then also importantly to point out, I provided a 90-day feedback. So this is like, welcome, my 90 days are up for onboarding. So like now my plan is to get further embedded and develop my product expertise and then figure out how to like better stay in sync with each of our lovely teams. But so this is like me dipping my toe, which I think is good because I'm getting a little bit about dependency proxy and a little bit about merge change. So anyway, there's a feedback form for you to fill out. And yes, so thank you for talking about merge chains. And like, I think, let me know the best way to involve you in that process, because I don't want to, you guys are so busy. I feel like especially this last month was really, really busy. So I'm trying not to like at you or ask too much, but I also want to make sure you don't feel like that I'm not including you. So I'm like playing around with like being quiet and being loud. So anyway, let me know if you think about it, a good way to provide feedback. Right now, I'll just provide updates in the issues. But soon we're going to be coming up with little definitions for the survey, and I might just have to call you in. So I'll try not to, but I'm probably going to need you.
Okay. Sure. Yeah, I'll be happy to help. There's also some work that we did around like simplifying merge chain, making it more understandable. So I can share that with you as well. And there's a lot of good discussion there. The work might not have resulted into, the outcome might not have been like what we expected, but the discussion was definitely it was really great.
Okay, cool.
And I added a link to the competitor landscape section to our conversation. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks. Does anyone else have anything else to add or share? If not, we're going to wrap up. Thanks everyone for attending our APAC CI/CD UX Weekly, and I wish you all an amazing day or evening, like Erika.
Thank you. Bye,
Thanks, everyone.
Have a good day. Good night, Erika.
Bye.
Bye.